Thank you for tuning in to the Failed Podcast. I am your host, Sam Iscaville. Here at the Failed Podcast, we focus on failures and challenges that our guests have experienced. Along with that, we take the lessons that they have learned. Our hope is that you learn something new, and if you're facing challenges, maybe one of our guests can encourage you to keep going. Through the power of conversation and asking the right questions, we hope to leave you with insight and wisdom that can help you face your failures and your challenges. On behalf of the Failed Podcast, thank you for listening. And now we want to welcome our guest, L.D.P Lance. Lance, how you doing? Thank you for coming on the Failed Podcast. This has been in the works for a minute, and it finally is here. How you doing this morning?
I am doing fantastic. Got some coffee. Feeling nice and relaxed.
Yeah.
Nice. This is like in my element. I typically record on Saturdays and Sunday mornings with my guests. So this is right in line. And I'm on off. We're in off season right now.
Yeah.
We do something called off script where I just kind of come on and give a short little briefing about what I've got on my mind and things like that as we get ready for season 8.
Oh,
we were just talking about season 8.
3 years and running.
Oh my God! I've already kind of got a little bit of a guest list going. I am shocked by one of the people that wanted to come on.
You got Mark Cuban? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, that's great, dude.
Yeah.
People struggle to get guests, and I see you have a good variety, a lot of business owners, and then a lot of other people who are like creatives and stuff. So I like tuning into your podcast just because I get to hear you do your thing in many forms with many personalities. And as a fellow podcaster, I learn from the way that you do it. First of all, my voice is not as cool as yours, but every now and then, I try to make it work.
Gotta break it down a notch.
Welcome to the Failed Podcast. We are. That's funny.
It's the nasally thing, right? That's what I get made fun of for it sometimes.
No. So look, guys, you see that right there? It's probably you. That's his podcast, and that's the icon. So I'll put everything in the description below. That way you can go follow him, listen, and see what he's doing. But there you go. Look up that, and then you'll be able to hear what I'm talking about.
Available everywhere.
And nasally's not bad. Remember, they told Shakira she sounded like a goat.
I know, and now she is the goat.
And yeah. So here at the Failed Podcast, we want to focus on people's failures and challenges, but not in a negative way, because we all learn from it.
Absolutely.
If you're sitting here, it's because you learn from whatever you went through.
Absolutely.
So you're going to help me walk through your journey, how you grew up, where you grew up. And you don't have to tell me how much you weigh or how long you were, right? But take me back to your childhood. I want to just know where you grew up, what your family, home life environment was like.
Yeah.
Because we don't realize it, but there's so many challenges as a kid that help us now. And when we reflect, we pull out the lessons.
100%.
And so tell me a little bit about how you grew up and where you're from.
I think going back to like childhood and things like that, just before I even dive into mine, now that I'm a parent and I started doing research, because I research a lot. That's what I used to do. That's what I used to do for a living. I still have to do it. You don't realize how much of an impact the first couple of months of your life have on you for the rest of your life. And for me, parents split. I was in Colorado, born in Colorado. Parents separated, everything was really nice though. They did a good job. I'm really proud of them for the way that they were able to handle everything. But they split. My mom and I moved to Rochester, New York. I was one of those kids that got to travel a lot. I was going back and forth between New York and Colorado, New York and Chicago, New York and other states. So Indiana, wherever my father's family reunion was going to be happening, I was traveling there. I was traveling to Colorado. I've got an amazing family on both sides. So I was very fortunate to grow, even though I didn't grow up with both of them right then and there.
Yeah.
I have a strong relationship and a strong bond with both of my parents. And the relationship is different with the two of them, but grew up in Rochester, New York, was a wrestler, track star. Notice I didn't say wrestling star. I tore my meniscus. I was on varsity young, but I tore my meniscus and I couldn't do it again. So then later on I got into judo and all of that. I had to keep doing that. And now I'm a yoga teacher. But growing up in that area and growing up in such a cold environment, you kind of learn how to adjust your your lifestyle very quickly, because we could get a snowstorm in October and that could throw off everything that you have planned. So growing up in Buffalo and going to college in Buffalo, I say that had probably the biggest impact on me.
Yeah.
Because the city of Buffalo is like nothing else. And I've been everywhere. And I will tell you that the city of Buffalo is, and I'm not saying it's the best. If you ask me, I would much rather be in Denver or maybe Miami or maybe San Francisco. Like there's cities that I enjoy more, but there's just something about Buffalo.
Anytime I hear about Buffalo, New York, it's snow.
Yeah.
Cold, and the pictures, everything's covered in snow.
Yeah.
But anyways.
That's all that people talk about.
Yeah.
But if you actually go to the city, it's got some of the nicest people, some of the best food. You can party until like 4 o'clock in the morning. Wow. Well, it's cold. You don't have anything else to do. You
be inside.
You just party all night. But no, what I learned from that city is a lot of resiliency. And you gotta get creative, because once there's a snowstorm, you still gotta eat. You still gotta make things happen. So it definitely taught me a lot of lessons about how to persevere when a lot of things are out of your control. Right, that span of control. Yeah. Some people don't know how to handle when they're out of control or when things are outside of their scope. Yeah. It taught me how to kind of adapt very quickly and to change your plans.
Now, there was one thing you pointed out, like a lot of people are watching and they come from homes where there's divorce and then you have to split your time between parents and sometimes locations. Yeah. And there's just this negativity attached to it. And I like that you said it was great with both families. I got to travel. They made it work.
Yes.
And so like if you're watching, man, it's not doomsday. No. Like whatever you have on your plate, man, you got to make it work. And that's an effort. Like that's individual efforts. Yep. Like everyone has to decide and everyone has to make the best of it, even whenever we think it's the worst or whatever. So I love that you kind of spotlighted that, because a lot of people don't tend to say that, sadly enough. And so I feel like that obviously added to who you are.
But it's a mindset thing, though.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, it is a mindset thing. So my relationship with my father wasn't perfect at the very beginning, but there's two ways you can go about things in life. You can either carry all the weight or you can put it back on the person. I actually was just having a conversation with someone, and they asked me, being a yoga teacher and having people bring some of their problems and their thoughts and things to you, how do you handle it? And I'm like, well, I don't. When someone's in my presence and we're having a conversation, I just help them pick up the weight a little bit. So I will help them carry said weight while they're having a discussion with me. Maybe we knock a couple things off the top while we're having the conversation, but then I give it all back to them. Yeah. So what I think happens sometimes is we are so upset about how things turn out that we just carry some weight that doesn't belong to us. So I put the onus back on him, and he did the work, and now we have a fantastic relationship. This man's going to be out here next week for my daughter's birthday. So it's like, it's a mindset thing. I'm not going to sit around holding grudges because it's too much energy. It's too much of my energy for me to use on that, and the only person that gets negatively impacted is me. So, like, I'm not going to drink poison for somebody else.
Yeah. I agree. Great insight. Growing up in your childhood, what was your childhood like with your friends, I guess, in school? Yeah. Like, if we go, like, middle school, high school, it seems, from my perspective, that's where a lot of challenges happen and a lot of our development on how we are, like, socially and how we deal with things. Yeah. Go to high school, that's when a lot happens. Yeah. Is there something that sticks out back then that you're like, I hated it, but I'm thankful for it today?
Oh yeah, when I first got to New York, I got bullied like crazy because I'm the kid with cooties from the mountains. Yeah. I'm coming from Colorado, nobody knows me, so I got bullied a lot. And it's interesting though because I don't do like the let's make fun of people for fun, and like that's how some people use it to like build rapport. I have too much insight on what that could do to someone negatively, so I don't do a lot of that. When I want to build rapport with someone, I just have a normal conversation with them. So what it really did for me is it helped me to communicate. It actually never put me down. Like it never really fazed me. It didn't really upset me, mostly because I've been very secure in who I am as from a very young age. Again, shout out to my parents, my family for helping me just be myself and for that being enough. Yeah. But yeah, I got bullied, and I think that what started to happen is a lot of them started to realize it wasn't working. And then when I got into high school, because I was in middle school, I ended up being really good at track, and I was good at wrestling already. And then one of my friends and I, we got on varsity when we were like 13, 14 years old. We were already doing like JV practice and then varsity practice. So then when we got to high school, I was already a varsity track athlete, like starter. And I was already on the varsity wrestling team. I wasn't starting on the varsity wrestling team, but like I was on the varsity team and like wrestling off to decide if I was gonna compete that week or whatever the case may be. But like, so it was funny because like I went from the kid that they made fun of, kind of started to get more popular, to then being like a popular kid, and then I would not let anybody bully anybody else. That was the weird thing. I became the guy that's like, if you make fun of people in my presence, you're not invited to my parties. You're not invited to anything that I have going on. I'm not putting up with that.
Now, here at the Feld Podcast, we are against bullying. I experienced it. My daughter has experienced it, and it just what it does. And when you see it in private at home, and you see someone sad and crying about, like, it's real, man.
It's a real thing.
People don't really see that, but it hurts as a parent to see it. And you stuck up for people. That's a hard thing to do. Okay. So let's just say there's some young people watching right now, and then maybe when I was young, for sure I saw it. Like I was like, he's bullying him, and then but this dude is like this, so I can't really call him out because it's gonna say something about me. You know how it goes. The dynamics, the politics are tough. But what words of encouragement could you give to us people that were listening, and even in the work environment as adults?
You see it.
Like, get out of here. Bullying exists there, and it's even sadder because people are just trying to make. How would you approach it, man? If you're seeing it and you're like, hey, dude, like you need to stop or whatever. How would you approach? How would you motivate? Someone to approach a bully.
I would say the first thing that you need to do is kind of understand yourself. So before you engage in any kind of confrontation, make sure that you fully understand how you deal with confrontation first. So like for me, I'm not afraid of confrontation, but I am. Now, I say that I have definitely done my share of being an asshole. I have done my share of that, trust me, and then some. I am not afraid of a confrontation, an aggressive situation. I'm not afraid of it, but I also I know what I'm capable of in a situation. So you just got to kind of have to know what your style is. There's only two ways you can go about it. You can meet that person where they are from an aggressive standpoint, or you can try to bring that person back down to earth. There's only two ways to go about it. And I usually just look and see, first off, what's my mood and what's the situation? Some people need to be brought back down to earth, and some people need to be met with aggression. So I typically tell people, if you see something like that happening, I wouldn't engage the first time, observe the first time and understand what's going on. And then you see it happen again. Now you have a pattern of behavior, and you can determine from what you know about the people the best way to go about it.
And it's so crazy because whenever you confront someone, it's like a hostile environment per se. You gotta breathe. Like you gotta maintain your breathing, because if you start losing control of that, it's just gonna add to the anxiety and stress, and then it can blow up in your face.
And that's why I say you gotta know whether or not you're gonna approach, if you're gonna match their energy or try to draw their energy down.
Got it.
That's why it's really important to know which way you're gonna go. I tend to match energy, but I know that most people can't meet me where I go. But I know that for me, my friends, my wife, a lot of people tell you that's not good if I go to that area, because that's not even the person that I am anymore. So I try not to go there.
Something down. It says, the biggest challenge I faced when getting started was identifying why I was doing it and who the message was for.
Ooh, I like that.
You said that. And we're just going to jump ahead.
I like that. I like that. I like that I said that. I was going to say, that sounds like something.
Sounds good.
I was like, that sounds like something that I would say.
What philosopher said that? It was you, man. The biggest challenge that you face is getting started and identifying why and was doing it and who the message was for. Where'd that come from? Tell me a little bit about your process, creativity, and who you are. Because now we're just gonna jump ahead, guys. Like this is like bumper cars. This ain't a freeway, man. We're just gonna go left and right. You do a lot of things creatively. You do photography. You're a businessman. You do yoga. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So for me, one of the things that I like to tell people is I am very much process oriented, because in my opinion, I believe that the process is more important than the destination.
Yeah.
What do they always say? That the person who likes walking is going to go further than the person who's walking to a certain spot. So I was not always process oriented, but as I got into leadership in corporate America, I realized that if I had a process that allowed me to be free to be myself in a lot of other areas, if I'm spending time trying to figure out what I'm going to do every single time something comes up, then you kind of lose track of who you are. So instead, I built processes around everything that I did, whether it was coaching people, whether it was training people, whether it was difficult conversations. I have a process for literally everything that I do. Yeah. So when things get difficult, I'm not having to think about what I do next. I already know what I do next in that situation, and it's adaptable. So I basically took that and I brought it to everything else that I do. But I realize now, even as a kid, I had a process. As a wrestler, I had a process. In track, I had a process. I've always been process oriented. It wasn't until I was in corporate America going through trainings and I'm like, oh, I thought about it that way. I've done things. You start to have these light bulbs go off of like, you intuitively will figure things out. Because my process is going to be different from somebody else's, because not everybody can communicate the way that I can. Yeah. So you might have to go about it a different way if this is not your form of communication. So what I've done is, when it comes to photography, I've built a process. I know I can go to an area. You give me 30 minutes in the city, and I will capture gold. Yeah. And I know that. And I think for some people, it's difficult for them to put praise on themselves because we're not taught to do that. Yep. But if you don't believe in you first, if you don't at yourself, if you don't put yourself at the forefront of what you're doing, you can't ever get to your highest level. So I'm not afraid to say that I'm great at what I do. Yeah. And I'm still not even the greatest I could be. I'm still not even close to being as good as I could be. But you give me 30 minutes anywhere, and I believe I could get some fantastic photos. And the reason for that is I put in the work. The only reason why I'm so confident in any of these things because I've put in the work. Yeah. Even with yoga, while we were going through training, they say you should do 3 times as much yoga as the average person in your class. You need to be able to say definitively you've done 3 times as much yoga as the average person that would come to your class.
That makes sense.
That's wild. But when you think about it, that's freaking wild.
Yeah, well, you looking at like Kobe and Shaq and whenever they talk about, even Michael Jordan, when they talk about like they're practicing, it doesn't equal a game. It's like 20 games in one practice. Like they're not going to run as much as they run in a game when they practice. They shoot. They've said, I've shot 1,000 times in one training, and there's a reason for that. Yeah. And I feel like that's what you're doing. That's pro level mentality. A lot of us don't put that to practice because we don't know how. And it's nice to have good reflexes. It's nice to go by the gut. But I like to use those once I've already my proven system and what it was. Like for instance, right now, when I was trying to read your thing, I kind of lost focus. But I also know that, okay, Lance is going to talk and then look it over and I'm going to be good. Yeah. And so I think that helps. Yeah. And creatively, people, they neglect that. Do the work behind the scenes.
I think what happens is there is this idea that like the camera's going to do it for you, or certain things are going to happen for you. And you can get great photos on auto. What's going to happen, though, is you're going to be in a situation where the light is super bright or the light is super low. You don't have the right focal length, and you're trying to make something. So, like, have you practiced enough? I know this is going to sound so ridiculous, but one of the first things that I did is I have this little owl that is like a little figurine that we got years ago. And I literally put it on my dining room table, and I set it in one position. And I took photos of like multiple camera lenses of that one item would change one setting, take a photo, change another setting, take a photo. And I went all the way up, all the way down, changed camera lenses, went all the way up and all the way down. And there's 3 elements of photography. And I use all 3 of them. And I would only change one thing at a time across all 3. Yeah. Then I did it to the other one. And like, so when I tell people like I took a lot of photos, I was shooting in the gym. Like I literally Now when I step outside, why do you think I could do it in 30 minutes? Yeah. Because I sat there for 3 hours once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, it's not that there is something about shooting in the gym. There is something about putting in the time that makes you really confident when it's time to go.
Now, dude, that's so great. There's habits that we develop that kind of add like walls to our progress.
Yep.
And when you're saying, man, I made a tweak, I made 100 tweaks, I made 1,000 tweaks.
Yep.
And when we face challenges and failures in life, we don't make tweaks.
Yeah.
So one year we face this challenge, whatever it may be, being a good friend or passing your math test, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the following year, you can come across kind of the similar situation, but you didn't make any adjustments. Yeah. You didn't sit down and look at it and say, how can I improve, either to not be stressed about it, to get through it a little bit quicker, or to learn more from it. So that's what I like about it, man. And a lot of people are scared to fail. Like, it literally knocks them down. Yep. And the recovery time is long. They're not making tweaks. They're not making adjustments.
I have a rule for it,
They're
too.
not understanding themselves more.
Yep.
So give me your rule.
I have a rule. So, and I've documented this on It's Probably You. I have a 48-hour rule.
Yeah.
Because I have failed licenses exams in the field that I'm in. I have failed at interviews. I have failed at projects. I have failed at all these things. Yeah. So my rule is
your friend, sounds like.
Well, if like I said, like, the only reason I feel so confident is because I made a bunch of mistakes. You don't learn from being good. You learn from failing.
Absolutely.
So I have a rule. It's a 48-hour rule.
Uh-huh.
I give myself 48 hours to feel all the pain, the sadness. I have 48 hours to let all of it out. And I don't try to solve anything. I don't try to fix anything. I spend 48 hours being pissed off, sad, angry, combination of them, going in and out of the emotions. Yeah. I give myself 48 hours. Yeah. Usually I'm done in 24 to 28, 32. Yeah. I'm usually done before that, but I give myself 48 straight hours from the time that I find out the news or whenever it happens. I have 48 hours to just bitch and be upset, and whatever the case, I give myself all that time, and then by the time we get to that 2-day mark, then we have to start. We're over it. We got to start figuring out what to do next. We got to get to the next plan. We got to get to the next thing. But the issue is, people don't give themselves that time to be upset. No. Like, oh well, I failed, but let me just hop right back in. No. Feel the failure. Like I like to say, it's like this. It's like you just hit the ground, right? Your face just hit the ground, right? What happens when your face hits the ground? Most people want to immediately get back up. Not me. I want to sniff it. I want to like taste it a little bit. Yeah. I want to feel what it felt like to be on the ground. I want the coldness on my face. I want to feel like what does this feel like? Because I'm gonna be here again. Yeah, you gotta let it settle. Let it settle. Let it hurt a little bit. And then, all right, how's my body feel? What's my mind doing? It's a slow process to get back up. But what it does is it makes failure a lot less painful.
Yeah. When people get hurt, the shock factor comes in, and you can literally walk another 10 feet, and people think, oh, I'm okay. Yeah, wake up tomorrow morning, and you're going to find out what really happened, because that part of your body is not working anymore. Yep. And so I love that. The 48-hour rule, it's on your podcast. You talk about it. But you gave us a pretty good scope of it. So, guys, I mean, I love it. It seems like, to me, it's like when you're trying to grow from failure and challenges to be better, are the things that you implement easy, right? Yeah. And I like that I can say 48-hour, like Lance said, 48-hour rule. Mm-hmm. That's easy for me. Yeah. So I love that, man. Thank you for it. It's got to be easy. Yeah, if you complicate it, forget it, man. It's going to make it so much harder. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in your life? Okay, but I'm going to zoom in. Yeah. What are some big challenges that you faced in photography, in business? And then we're going to close with yoga. Okay. So don't touch on yoga, because to me, yoga is like mental health. Oh, yeah. Like focusing in, breathing. And I really want to leave the audience with that. And so what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in business and photography?
I would say for photography, it was really just my own head. Yeah. Like so the first time I got put in Fort Worth Magazine, it was with my phone. It was a picture I took with my phone. Yeah. It was during a lot of the civil unrest. Like I had a concept, I took a photo, and it really blew up. Like it blew up. Like people had bought that print from me. Like that thing blew up. I didn't expect that. And I just remember being so insecure about it because it was taken with a phone. And I was like, oh, no one's going to believe I'm a real photographer because I took this with my phone.
Yeah.
I didn't take this with any cameras or anything like that. And I just remember feeling super insecure about that. So it was me getting in my own head. It was like imposter syndrome. I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to believe it's that good if it just came from a cell phone. Yeah. And so that was my own thing that I put on myself of like, why is that what's coming up? Why is it that I feel like I have to prove something? Yeah. And at that point, I had only gotten a couple likes. I had grown my page and everything, but that was the first time that like an outlet had come to me and wanted me to be featured. And I struggled with that for a couple of days. Yeah. But so that was something that I feel like was self-inflicted. Yeah. Luckily for me, I only work with clients that I want to work with. So let's talk about the business side. The one of the hardest things to do with business is continue to grow your client base. That's been the hardest thing for me. Is it's like I have so many other things going on that I haven't leaned into trying to grow out my photography business. I only had like 2 clients that I just was working with regularly, and I set it up so that it was more legit because what I do for a living, I have to have all my things in a row because I'm in a highly regulated industry. Yeah. So I started up the business, and something that I could potentially do better there is put more energy into it. Put more energy into trying to get more clients, into trying to grow it. So that's where I feel like I've kind of failed is I haven't put myself out there to the same degree. Yeah. I've kind of let people come to me, and it's good that even having 2 clients is even having people that want to work with you is a big deal. But still, I feel like I could have done more.
Now, that's one of the, I think that's one of the challenges of being good or recognized for being good is it kind of clouts your motivation. You're like, man, I'm good, man. Just I'll open the door when they knock. It's hard. You got to show up, and I feel like the people that do things at an elite level, they have to come to terms with that because I'm sure they're all sitting there thinking, well, I'm the man, so you come find me. Exactly. And that's a challenge that a lot of us face when we're good at something, but a lot of us aren't good at things, and so all we do is push, and there's no response. Like it's really quiet.
That's hard. I would feel like that would be more difficult to have an uphill battle of feeling like you're completely knocking and no one's answering. That to me would be a lot of a beatdown. I've been fortunate enough to not be in that situation, but I feel like I kind of got thrust into taking that next step because photography was secondary. I was doing the podcast, and the only reason why I used to do photography a lot when I was younger. Oh, okay. I had little point and shoot camera. I had the film camera. I did a lot of that when I was younger, and then I lost it. Same thing with yoga. I did yoga when I was younger, and then I lost it. And then I started the podcast, and I was like, well, I need to take some photos for the podcast. Yeah. And it's just weird how certain things come back to you later on in life. Yeah. But at the end of the day, man, you're right. It's the effort, and I feel like it's a lot harder to put in the effort than it is to just kind of sit back and rest on what you've already done.
Now, the insecurity that you had about doing it with a camera phone, there's this thing whenever I talk to creatives, or it applies to anyone, but I talk to a lot of creatives, and they're always worried about the thing. I got to have the right outfit. I got to have the right camera. I got to have the right mics. I got to have all these barriers of entry. Yeah. And they're almost impossible for a lot of these people because they're expensive, they're hard to get, and you don't even know your craft yet. Yep. And so whenever I'm doing things like today, I'm recording on an iPhone and a GoPro. Now, I have a nice Sony camera over there, but I try to use things that are easy for other people to obtain. So if they say, Sam, I want to start, I want to do well, you know what? I did it with my phone. I did it with this mic that's $30 because I just want them to get started in it, right? And so I love that you said you took it with your phone, but you were a little insecure about it. But other people saw how great you were. And I just want to tell people, give people the opportunity to see how great you are.
Oh yeah. You got to take the shot. Like I love telling that story because what it allowed me to do is now I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't care where it came from. I realize what you have to do is separate the artist from the tool.
Yeah.
That's something that's really difficult to do, is to separate the artist from the tool. Because I have this is a Fujifilm X-A7. It's like this little camera that is like plasticky, but it uses all the same lenses as my professional camera. But like it's plasticky and it's kind of like a step up from a phone. I've told people to go get something like that because you can still use it. It still looks like kind of like a phone, but you're starting to learn the process and everything. I take that with me when I go out and do things. No one can tell where my photos come from. No one knows if I did it with a phone. No one knows if I did it with my actual camera or if I did it with my little fun camera. No one can tell. And when I started to realize that, I'm like, oh wait, it's me. It's the artist and it's not the tool, and that stopped me from that. Dude, people get into like this gear race. I was there, man. Yeah. I spent a year, I think it was like 2020 to 2021. I just bought so many lenses. I was like, I need this lens, and I need this thing, I need this thing.
Home going like this.
And then
You're all my lenses.
And then I realized I could really only have one on the camera at a time. Yeah. And honestly, we're in the studio now. I only travel with two. I travel with two lenses. Yeah. So like I have like 6 or 7. I can only bring 2 at a time. Yeah. So like,
make it work.
And I can only use one.
Yeah.
So it's just these things that you see all these gear reviews and you see all these people doing all these things. Yeah. And you feel like that's what you need in order to do it. You don't need any of that. It's not even necessary.
Dude, like you think you need something to do. And I started thinking about like my childhood. I started thinking about where I grew up and everything that's attached to where I grew up, who I am, how I'm educated. And I'm not knocking on no one where they live or anything like that. But I carry that with me sometimes. And in essence, it's not the right equipment for what I want to do. So like my confidence has to come from somewhere else because that's rooted. Yeah. And in a lot of us, that's rooted, and we say, I don't have what it takes to walk into that place. I don't have what it takes to talk to that person. And all I'm saying is, Lance just said it, man. He goes, I got 2 lenses. I got to make it work with those 2 lenses. And he does. Yep. And sometimes we have 1 or 2 talents, but you think you need 10. Exactly. Right? Because everyone else has 10. But your 2 might be enough. Yeah. You won't ever know.
Like more than enough.
More than enough.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah. And I started doing those challenges. I started actually going places with just 1 lens and have to make it work. So my wife and I would do that challenge where it's like, you pick one, I pick the other. We're going to shoot the same scene and we're going to see what it looks like from different vantage points. And we're not switching. You got this 1 lens in this area. So even if I'm shooting landscape photography, I got a lens that's not really for it. Yeah. I got to make it work. And I've gotten some of my best photos from being in that environment and just like, figure it out. Figure it out.
This is a stretch, Lance. Follow me. You're a great deep thinker.
Yeah.
So we want to do so much in life, okay? This is a challenge that people face, but we are not confident in what we already know. That we say, I need to get this certificate. I need to get this training. I need to have this job, this shirt, these pants in order to step into that thing, it being a greater thing. And you said, I showed up with 1 lens and I made it work. And you surprised yourself on the result that came out of it. And tell me your thoughts on this, man, but believe in who you are right now. Regardless of what you're chasing and trying to get, who are you right now, and step into the world with that individual, and you might surprise yourself on what comes out.
I think what it comes down to and what it all boils down to is, the person that you want to be 10 years from now is really counting on you right now to get started. Like that, the future you is really dependent on you today. And if you today don't take those steps, you're not going to be that person.
You're welcome, Sam. 10 years. You're welcome.
Right. That's what I say to myself all the time. And I think I get caught up in, I want to be great at all these things. I want to do all these things all the time. And I've had to dial it back for myself and say, if I'm not moving from a place of authenticity, then it's not worth it, right? It's not worth it to just force something just to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't post as much as I used to on my Instagram pages. I'm not doing as much as I used to, but now people are interacting with me at class. Now people are coming to my yoga class. Now people are tapping into the podcast at a higher clip. I know that my prints are being talked about, discussed, and things like that are happening. So it's like I put out less, but higher quality.
I love it. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the yoga part, because it seems like photography, depending on the gig you get, it can come with its stresses, equipment, cost, finished product, charging for it, all that. Okay,
the price stuff, man. Oh my God,
get out of
here!
here.
It is so hard pricing stuff.
And then your job, forget it. Like job. We all work. We know it can be very stressful. Yeah. And then I've kind of watched you when you were like training, and then you got certified, and then as you stepped in, and then a venue opened up for you, and then you stepped into yoga. Yeah. Okay. Now I feel like it came at such a timely fashion in your life because you're so busy. You were in high demand. You're like Mr. Fort Worth. He wasn't even Mr. Fort Worth. Okay. And so like you needed something to to say, Lance, you need to slow down, right?
Yeah.
And then this yoga thing has come up, and I'm watching you, and I just feel like when you're doing it, you got to slow down. You have to be present.
Yep.
And so tell me your journey coming to yoga, okay? And not really the business side of it, but like your personal mental health part of it and why you did it, and then we'll just walk through it.
Oh yeah, for sure. So like I said, like I had gotten into yoga when I was younger.
Yeah.
I did it a lot in college, and I don't know what happened, man. It's like it kind of fell off.
Yeah.
And then we got to Arlington, and my wife and I started doing it again. Like we started going to a studio, and then I found a studio here in Fort Worth that I really liked. And then the pandemic hit. And what it did for me was it gave me a nice little reset. So I actually have a story for you. I did a challenge on the podcast where I did 30 days of yoga. And this is why I think it's important to make things simple and easy. So I said, I'm going to do 30 days, but I'm not going to do 30 days at 20 minutes or 30 days at 30 minutes. I did 30 days. 20 minutes, 30 days, 10 minutes a day. And that's all I needed to do. And I can consider it to be a win, right?
Yeah.
So I did that 30-day challenge during the pandemic, and I talked about it on the podcast. And what it basically did was some days I did 11 minutes. Some days I just did 10. Some days I did 45. Some days I did 30. Next thing you know, because the barrier to entry to do it was so small, it made it easy on me, right? I get through with the 30-day challenge. I'm doing yoga more regularly. I kid you not, 3 months later, there is a yoga studio that is giving out scholarships for BIPOC. So I applied for it, get the scholarship, and then boom, I'm in training. So I saved myself $4,000 or $5,000 by going through this program. Now you have to write it. You have to like really write it.
You have to earn it.
Yeah, You have to like put in a lot of stuff to get that, but I got it. And then I went through the training. And what I realized in the training, which is the craziest thing, is I talked to more yoga teachers. We kind of all come to the same conclusion. That 200-hour yoga certification, it's closer to about 3. And not only that, that's the start.
Yeah.
That's just the start. Now it's like, what else are you reading? Who else are you like engaging with? What are you doing in your own body? The greatest thing that I learned from going through yoga teacher training is I can't be a great yoga teacher if I'm not a great yoga practitioner. Like if I am not doing those things, I can't come to you and do it. Because you could get somebody hurt. Like you could literally hurt somebody if you don't pay attention to certain things. And the mindfulness of it, like what it does for me personally is huge. So I would say that that's a perfect example of just start doing something and you don't know what opportunities are going to come. I had no idea. There's no way I would have known that was coming. I could have never known that was coming.
Yeah, because at the smallest, what was your class size? Like when you, because now you got like.
Oh yeah, so when I first started, my very first class, bro, I want to say 6 people in my very first class. And that's including my wife and 3 of my friends.
Hey, Steen, show up.
I had 6 people in my very first class. And again, it was my wife, 3 of my friends, and that was my first class, right? And now we're typically anywhere from 12, 15. We had to cap it at 20 because a couple times we got like 22. Yeah. So we actually have capped it at 20 because we were getting to a point where we were like too many people. But I'm averaging 12 to 15 people, which is exactly what I want. I don't want more than 15. Yeah. 20, I will do 20, but like I prefer the 12 to 15 because I could see everybody. Yeah. It's perfect for me. So that's kind of what you want as a yoga teacher. You don't want to get too big, but yeah, man, it's wild. Started with 6 people, and I was like, man, I don't know if anybody's ever going to come to class. And then 15, 14, 17, 22, 21, and it's just you have to show up. Like I showed up, and be yourself, show up, be real. Yeah. And now I have regulars. I have regulars that come to my class every single month, and I teach the first Saturday of every month at Funky Picnic. And it's like, if I hadn't shown up, I could have easily had that small class and said, oh, I don't deserve to be here. Instead, I said, wow, I actually do. I can tell you my very first class. I don't remember half of it. I don't remember, I remember I messed up. I remember, I blanked out on a certain portion of it. I remember, I didn't get some of the things right. And I just remember being so proud. Yeah. And if you can't be proud of teaching to 6 people, why should you be allowed to teach to 22?
Got it.
That's how I walked away from it. It's like, it's not about the amount of people that show up to class. It's about the energy that I give to the class when they show up.
So we live in a highly stressful country. Yeah. Like everything is fast. Like everything is like go, go, go. Yeah. What are some slow down techniques that maybe we don't do yoga, we can't do yoga, but there's breathing, there's mindset, there's thinking, there's posture, stuff like that's important. What's something that if we're trying to implement the 48-hour rule or something, or something's very stressful, what's a few actions that we can take to help us, kind of
I've got a bunch of them.
Calm down.
So what I tell people, especially if you work in a office environment, I would say put a sticky note somewhere on your desk or have a reminder somewhere to just breathe. Mm-hmm. I would say put something on it that says breathe and be present. Typically what happens is people think that they have a bad memory. You don't actually have a bad memory. What happens is you're not paying attention when you're doing certain things, and then you forget. The easiest way to expand your memory is to pay attention. So I would say put something on your desk that says breathe and be present, or just one of each. That's going to help you in those moments, because when you start getting stressed out, you can look at that. And then let's talk about breathing. If you feel like you're in a stressful environment and you're in a stressful situation, there's 2 techniques that I would have you look into. There's something called box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, you hold at the top for 4, you exhale for 4, and then you hold at the bottom of that exhale, and then you start that rotation again. Box breathing helps regulate your system, and you only need 60 seconds of it. You can do a completely different mind reset. And then the other thing,
tell me the timeline.
So you inhale for 4, you hold for 4.
Walk me through it. I want y'all to see this. Okay,
ready?
Okay, ready.
So, and I do this in my class, depending on what I'm teaching that day. So you guys can follow along. I want you to inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. You just go through that a couple rounds. Typically, for me, when I'm feeling stressed out, I need about 4.
Okay, so the cycle.
For me,
4 times.
I cycle it 4 times usually, and sometimes I'll just do that before I go to bed. 4 to 16 times.
So after the 4 times, let's say, and it works. What's the response? How do you know?
Mm-hmm. Your heart rate's going to go down. Okay, your heart rate's going to drop. And you're going to start to feel a little bit of mental clarity. Once you start to feel the mental clarity, what I tell people to do, especially if you're coming from a highly stressed situation, once you start to feel that mental clarity, now I want you to just pay attention to your breathing. Just for a minute, just pay attention to your inhale and exhale. What you're doing is you're bringing yourself inward, because your brain does not know whether you actually have a problem or not. Your brain does not know whether there's actual danger or not. You can imagine danger and your brain thinks you're in danger. Yeah. Just like you can imagine peace and you can bring yourself peace.
Got it.
Yeah.
L.D.P, man, let me do it again right here. So this is his podcast, okay? I wanted to talk to him. We talked a little bit off, before I push record about communication podcast. He's doing it really big. I listen to all your stuff, and I learn from you. I love your style. I love the way you communicate, prepare, and present ideas. And I wanted to get into communication, but we're going to run out of time. So I have some really insightful questions that we're going to finish with. Yeah. But I just wanted y'all to encourage, there's no need for me to tell you how great he is. Just go listen to his podcast. And I'm sure you're going to be entertained. You're going to like it. And so we'll put that there.
Thank you.
One quick reference. At one point, Lance said he wanted to be on the radio. And then the people told him, your voice is too nasally. So they said, it's almost like saying you can't because you have this fault. Yeah. And he didn't hear him. And here he is. He has a successful podcast, and a lot of people are listening to his nasally voice. and I enjoy it very much. And so thank you for not listening to their advice, because it would have guided you the wrong way. Yeah. And so just in the links below, click and you can hear his podcast. And we're going to just jump in on these questions. I like to ask these questions to close the podcast. Yeah. What are you most proud of in your life so far?
Ooh. Yeah, that one's pretty.
These are the Oprah questions.
Yeah, I said it like I was shocked by it, but I would say just the way that I've been able to really have the family structure that I have. Yeah. I'm proud of the person that I decided to spend my life with. And I'm when I tell you that I'm in love with my daughter, and I can say that, it doesn't even hit close to how I feel.
How old is your daughter?
She's going to be a year.
She's brand new. Brand new. 1 year. So I'm a father. My daughter's 10, so I remember the change. I told her just the other day, I said, you are my heartbeat.
Yep. Changed me as a person.
If she's down, dude, I'm down. If she's happy, I'm happy. She controls. Yeah. So anyways, I'm happy for you. I'm watching. I see your photos and stuff, and I love it because I'm a father of a girl, so we kind of
girl dance. It's a different vibe.
You're going to spend a lot of money that you're not supposed to spend.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I'm already aware.
So I love it. Okay, what do you hope to achieve in the future?
I think,
I know that's very broad.
Oh no, I like it. No, it's fine with me. I think one of the things that I have in mind is I already have the photography business. I'm looking more at a yoga, I don't even know how to describe it. I want a yoga business that doesn't exist yet.
I love it.
I'm working on it. Yeah. I have some concept and some ideas, but I want to create something that doesn't exist right now, but I want it to exist.
It's just like a Steve Jobs mentality where the iPhone didn't exist, but he had it in his head. Yeah. I understand. Yeah. Great. I'm looking forward to going to that yoga class that doesn't exist yet. Okay, what is the most important lesson that you've learned in life?
You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself for the person that you were when you didn't know better, and then you have to forgive people for the people they were when they didn't know better. And the double down on that. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing wrong with forgiving someone and then not letting them be a part of your life. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Holding on to things we talked about earlier, holding on to things for other people, the mistakes that they made in your life, holding on to it does nothing for you.
What do you think the key is to happiness?
I like this one, and I want to go in a couple different directions, but this is what I'll say. I think the key to happiness is self-awareness. Because if you have self-awareness and you believe in yourself and you know who you are, you're going to go a lot farther than the person who's looking for it externally. So I would say if you want to find happiness, start a gratitude practice. Start writing down what you're grateful for. Start writing down all the things that you have in your life. You'll realize that you don't need as much as you thought you did.
What inspires you to create?
Oh, what inspires me to create?
Because you're like a hyper creator.
I think that I have something to say, and that's my inspiration is I have something that's in my head, and I want to get it out because if I can help somebody else, that to me is what's really inspiring. I'm self-motivated, so I don't really need a lot of external factors to want to do something. But the idea when here, I'll tell you this. I only get inspired by other people in certain situations. I have this intrusive thought when I'm working out that I let come to me, that my house is on fire and I have to get my wife and my daughter out. So when I'm in a workout and like I'm like really like sluggish and I can't get through it, I think to myself, the house is on fire and I got to get my wife and my daughter out of it. And that'll kick you in the ass real quick. So you talk about inspiration. It's like, how can I be of impact to other people? Because I'm going to create anyway. It's in my nature.
That's
my real,
I gotta go. Bye.
That's my real intrusive thought. When I am really just like dragging ass in a workout, I imagine that I have to save my family, and the next thing you know, I'm back at it.
And I kind of like that because whenever I'm working, I'm down. I'm not liking a job or a client. I say to myself, I'm doing this for my family.
Yep.
Like, and that's it. Like, I got to keep going. Take it and keep going. So yeah, I understand that. What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Nothing.
Yeah, I know. You're so busy. Yeah.
No, honestly, one of the things that I really enjoy is, and it's going to sound so random, but I love tech reviews. I love tech reviews. I love looking at different products and kind of understanding like operating systems and things like that. So if I have downtime, I'm either watching things about philosophy and big thoughts and things like that, or I'm looking at like tech and gear reviews, not necessarily to buy something, but I like being able to understand how operating systems work and what the full potential of any device that I have.
That's funny because I watch a guy that lives in a van.
Yeah, I love van life. I love van life.
It's
oh my
called
God.
Van City Van Life.
Yeah, I love van life.
He's in Canada.
Yeah.
His name's Chrome. Dude, I'm not gonna live in the van.
But is it so cool?
But I just like watching him, his dog, and the stuff he. Anyway, so I understand your tech review thing.
Yeah,
I watch that almost in the same fashion. What do you think makes a good friend?
Ooh, a person that won't judge you but won't let you stay where you are.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that you can find in a friend is someone who is going to is going to hold you down in public and then rip you apart in private. That's the kind of friend that I want. I there was a time where we were. I'll tell you a quick story because I'm like, why not? There was a time where I was going through licensing for the role that I'm in. Not now, but back then, and I made a friend through like starting at the job, and him and I started together, and he was already in a group and already through it. And we were in this room, and another guy was with me. Him and I were on the same schedule. We weren't quite friends yet. We were getting there, right? And then somebody comes in, and they're talking about someone. Yeah. And they're talking about my friend's now wife, right? Like, there's another friend that I had. They're talking about his wife. He made a comment about him. And this guy watches me kind of like get on to this guy. I don't even know this guy, but I know her. We ain't having that. Yeah. And I just kind of, not really aggressive, but I was kind of like, oh, you better watch what you say. Yeah. And then I remember I said something on my breath because like my other close friend was in that same group. And I'm like, if he would have said something about him, it would have been a wrap. And my friend now, Andy, was like, oh, I want to be. He's like, that was one of those moments I was like, oh, I want to be friends with this guy. Like, that's how you handle your friends when they're not even around. I'm like, yeah, I don't let that slide, bro. You don't talk about my friends in front of me, man.
How has failure made you better? This is the final question.
I would say that people talk about that I do a lot, right? I had this come up recently. Someone says, you do so much. How do you do so much? I would say that failure has been the single greatest thing for me. Yeah. My confidence in myself and my ability does not come from the things that I've done well. It has not come from any magazine feature. It has not come from any shout out. It has not come from any recognition. My confidence in myself has come from all the times that I've failed, and I have watched myself get back up. I have a track record of getting back up. Yeah. I have a track record of making things happen. So like when people hear me and they see that I'm confident, my confidence is not coming from a place of I think I'm better than anybody else. My confidence is coming from a place of I know what the work that I put in. I know how hard it was. I know how bad that felt when I failed. That's where my confidence comes from. And it does not come from getting put into a magazine. That is a outcome. That is not that's a lagging indicator, right? We talk about drivers and things that happen. That magazine feature, that is an outcome of all the other work. So when I think about failure, to me, failure is success because you gotta have it, and it teaches you who you are. I don't want anybody on my team that hasn't failed already. I don't want your first failure to come from working alongside of me because I don't need you to find out what you're about with that. I want you to know who you are before you show up.
It's like you think of the magazine feature and you say it. Everyone sees the image that's on there and the perfect story, but in your head, you're looking at this. This is what I failed at.
Yeah. Yep.
And it got me there. Like, I can get up, man. That's great insight, man. Thank you so much. I'm gonna put everything in the description below.
Yeah.
It's probably you. You do photography. But is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you're working on that you might want to say?
No, I just want people to tune in. If you felt like it resonated with you, tune in. I've always got things that I'm working on and doing. I've got more classes coming up. I will have more pop-ups coming up. So I just did the pop-up at Rar & Sons. Did yoga there a few weeks back with the Alzheimer's Association. I've got some other pop-ups this year that are going to be really cool. I want people to stay tuned for. And new season of It's Probably You comes out in March. So you got the exclusive here.
There you go. And thank you, Lance, for coming on the Feld podcast and joining me today. It was a great conversation.
Fantastic.
You did not disappoint what I expected. You did, man. Like, I didn't even have to be here, guys. That's when you know it's really good. Don't forget to give us a follow, hit the share, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family about what we're doing here at the Felt Podcast. Keep your head up. I always like to encourage y'all in failures and challenges, man. And you said it last, man. Just get up. Just get up and keep going. And I think that whenever you're sitting in the spotlight, you're going to remember, I got up. Thank you for tuning in. And like I always say, we'll see you on the next one.